Good morning, welcome back ladies, gents and Pikachus. I have a very long video to show you about Islam being banned, yes or no. We had a debate on Manny Cinder live the other night. So the reason I didn't show it to you before, because I thought, it's on his channel, probably don't need to repeat it. And then one of my viewers, a good friend of mine, Mark, who is in this comment here, I'm going to read to you. He had some questions to ask, and I thought this is exactly what we went through in the debate. So I'm going to tell you the questions, then we're going to watch the debate, we're going to break it down. So, Mark Goes Blind Gaming 2076, 4 hours ago, probably longer than that now, said, I don't know how you're going to ban millions of people from practicing their religion. I mean, drugs are illegal, but the government and the police can't even stop people from getting hold and taking them. So, his point, which another chap in the debate is going to make as well, is you can't enforce 100% of people following the law 100% of the time. So then, what's the point in having the law? That's effectively what he's saying there. Even though I'm putting a very fine point on it there, I'm going to use the example of every other British law. We have legal highs. They destroyed people's lives for several years. A law came out saying you can't sell these things in shops anymore and they're equal to Class A drugs. Virtually overnight they disappeared and clinics full of addicts started filling up and people started getting clean of this stuff. Now today, legal highs is one of the most expensive illegal drugs you will ever find, and it is virtually unseen on the streets of Britain. So even though some people do continue to get hold of it and sell it and take it, the penalties are so high, the risk is so high for them to do that, it's virtually unheard of to ever see that drug. And if you are trying to buy it, it's going to cost you more than crack cocaine, which is like one of the most expensive illegal drugs. So in that scenario, going from totally legal, unkempt, everyone's allowed to do it, and everyone did do it, including myself when it first came out, to now where it is absolutely a criminal act and it is completely banned, it dive bombed. The use and addiction rates for legal highs virtually dive bombed into insecurity overnight because that law was put in place. So that's what I'm saying with Islam. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Enforcement's going to be incredibly difficult. Pushing through that law will be incredibly difficult, and it will take some of the brightest, most courageous, moral people to come together and discuss how that law is going to be formed. But the problem is, if we don't do it, as we saw with legal highs, these things will rule the country and destroy millions of people's lives, and it's our children who will suffer in the next generation. Now, we have a responsibility to today's young people. They will inherit this world that we are currently building for them. Now, I don't know about you, but I will not be able to sleep at night until I know the world that I'm going to give to the next generation is free from the oppression, the racism, the genocide, and the oppression of Islam. Now, if other countries want to make Islam their law, their culture, and their nation, fine, they're quite able to do that in their own country, and it doesn't have to involve me. But this is Britain. This is our country. We have our own rules, our own laws and traditions and culture, and we have our own religion. And if anyone is going to tell me what to do, it's at least going to be someone of that nationality, of that culture, of that moral tradition and that religion. It is not going to be someone whose most important prophet is a man who was proud to have married a 6-year-old girl who was playing with dolls, impregnated her at the age of 9, produced sons he sent off on a jihad to go and die for the glory of a false god, only to divorce her later to get a younger, prettier model who was his brother's wife, and then have his brother sent into exile. That is Prophet Muhammad, right? So that's their perfect ideal man who in today's culture they say every Muslim should be like. That is not compatible with British law, British national culture and British ideals. So if we're going to get rid of that, we need to take a hard line and ban it. So we're going to go into the reasons why that is, and we're going to rationalise out every single negative thing that could be said or that could be said against that, and then we're going to go through the reasons why that has to be the thing that happens, and at the end we're going to summarise how it's going to happen. So without further ado, let's crack on with Manny Cinder live from the other night. Take it away, enjoy.
If you look at the following videos, you see a phenomena that we don't see much of in other communities. They are taking up space in the middle of the road, in the middle of highways, in the middle of where everyone is walking. You could do it on the side, you won't be noticed. What is really going on over here? What are the psychological processes or factors that motivates you to have so little consideration of people around you? According to Christ, this is virtue signaling. You want to be seen by others. In Speaker's Corner in London, there are regulations for what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. As you see in front of you, these are the regulations regarding what is allowed and what is forbidden. And they have made it very clear that collective prayers is not allowed. But it doesn't seem to matter. The police are not enforcing it. And when they have enforced it, after pressure, when we shamed them worldwide, they implemented it for a short time. And then the Muslims seem to go back to try to dominate. What's really going on? Why are the police not enforcing the rules? And why do Muslims not seem to show any respect to the rules? Well, this video will answer that. And the short answer is supremacy and dominance.
Bay, apa buat? Bay, sini sembahyang ke? Ayo, mati-mati yo.
Basically, this is what Muslims are going to do, because I'm from Pakistan and I know these things. It's really a norm in Pakistan. They do it to show numbers. It's a sign of dominance. Other people should mock them. They just want to show that, we're here to stay. I mean, they could easily go to a mosque. I mean, mosque, it's not it's not that small that they cannot contain these numbers, but they just want to show numbers and strength that we are here to stay and we're going to pray. But whether you like it or not, Islam will grow.
This is a Friday in Paris, filmed by hidden camera. The streets are blocked by a huge crowd of Muslim worshippers, and it's enforced by private security. This is all illegal in France. The public worship, the blocked streets, and the private security. But the police have been ordered not to intervene. So he bought a hidden camera and started posting the videos on YouTube. His life has been threatened, and so we're concealing his identity. He uses the alias of Maxime Lepont.
They are blocking the streets with barriers. They are praying on the ground, and the inhabitants of this district cannot leave their home nor go into their home during those prayers. The Muslims who are taking over those streets do not have any authorization. They do not go to the police headquarters, and so it's completely illegal.
Well,
That's above my pay grade, that is.
Well, I think if you stick to what the Bible actually tells you, you can pray, and God will tell you the same thing. Is Christianity is practical mainly. Yes, there's a lot of doctrine and theology there, but like we were saying earlier, theology is one thing, practice is another. If you don't practice what you preach, then you're not really a Christian, are you? Just a hypocrite. So in terms of practicing what the Bible tells us, we know whether the government tells me to do XYZ thing or not, I know how to behave. God has already told me how to behave. And if people are coming into this country who do the opposite of that, then I know how to behave in relation to them. I'm also told to do that. So it comes down to personal responsibility. Don't wait for the government to tell you this is moral, this is what you should do. Don't wait for your celebrities or your politicians to tell you pick up your tools or go and do this fight or whatever. Just know God has already told you exactly how to behave, what to do. And everyone individually needs to take up that cross and walk with it and stick to the commandments of God. And if we're all doing that individually, it doesn't matter what the government and the politicians or celebrities are doing.
You're talking on the basis of being saved. We're talking on the basis of taking back our society. We're talking on the basis of taking back our society and not being ruled over by psychopathic lunatics.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying every single day when you get up and leave the house to go to work or whatever it is you're doing, do what God has told you to do in every situation you can do it in, and you'll not set a foot wrong. Whereas if you're thinking, well, I can take advice from this guy or this celebrity or this politician so I can get my own way, it's like that's going to lead you nowhere. It's going to lead you nowhere good. That's what people are doing. They're waiting for cues from celebrities, politicians, or whatever. You know, they need to be told by someone else what to do. And it's like, no, if you're going to follow someone's commandments, let it be God. No one else is. Everyone else let you down.
I think people were able to do that a lot better, a few decades back. I think now with the education system the way it is and how it brainwashes people how to think or not to think, people cannot make that switch easily, i.e. relying on God and waiting for God for the answers. They just want to type something into Google and see what the answer is there and then.
Yeah. Well, you asked earlier, if I was the Prime Minister, what would be my first action? And I immediately thought, well, it wouldn't matter what my actions were in the job because I would have no power. I'm just a spokesman. Yeah. But I thought, if I was the Prime Minister, you know what I would do? I would just be a good example of a basic, normal guy who is a Christian. And I'd let everyone look into every area of my life and see how I behaved and made sure that I behaved like a good Christian. And I'd be condemned and I would be sacked and told that I was rubbish or whatever. I'd be criticized. But in the eyes of God, if I was right, then people would see that and they would know that's the example to follow, and they'd be good Christians too.
Is that not what the royal family should be doing? Is that not what the royal family should be doing?
Yeah, they absolutely should, but they're not. Yeah. They haven't done that for a while.
They should be the example, but they've been dysfunctional for quite some time.
Well, giving yourself a title like Defender of the Faith, that kind of says that you should be given an example. But I mean, we're just not seeing it. So, like I say, Jesus gave us a great example that we're never going to reach. In terms of a battle, it's a battle we're going to lose, but we're going to lose it with dignity in the right way. And then God will pick up the slack for us. Our life will be producing a good fruit rather than just purposeless nonsense and sinful.
I feel like we're in the embryonic stages of a patriotic revolution. Something is happening. Where it's going to go, I'm not sure. I don't know what you guys' opinion is in regards to patriotism. Do you see that as a conflict of interest? Can you be a patriot and a Christian? Or,
well, I'm
I know Bob has quite...
God, mate. My patriotism is towards the kingdom of God. So I'm already a patriot, really, but just not one in terms of, what the government's doing or what the country's doing.
Right, okay.
Above all, I'm a Christian, but I was at Unite the Kingdom. So, yes, I'm there all the way.
Yeah. That's how I stand. And if you
let's be honest, the Crusades were Christians who were fighting back. So it's happened in history, so I can't see any conflict.
A lot of the patriotic movement are quite staunch atheists, though. Like you mentioned God to them, and they become demonic type thing. So there is an issue there in regards, and a lot of them are very individualistic, out for themselves. At the same time, they don't see how their actions and behaviours has led the country in the path that it has. Yeah. And now we've, that's a
good point. That's a good point, and this is why I'm enjoying what Tommy is doing increasingly, where he's integrating his movement with the Christian movement. Yeah. I do have a lot of respect for Tommy for that reason.
Yeah, that always had to be the end game. That was always the path, and thankfully he's taken that path, and hopefully he does, because he can bring a lot of people to Christ. He can, whether people like that or not. Obviously, I'm a Tom Robinson supporter. Some people aren't, whatever. But he would get a lot of people on board, which I think is a good thing.
Tommy walks out of jail wearing a crucifix. And I thought, that solitary confinement, he's been thinking in that.
And what we also need to remember is that there is, I feel that this left versus right thing is another divide and conquer strategy. Because when you actually listen to the arguments of the left, the normal left, not the extreme left, you can see that they are trying to be good people, and they actually think genuinely what they are following and agreeing with is the right thing. They're not being evil. They're not being purposely. They're not being kind of hateful. They think honestly, with the hand on their heart, that is the best thing to do. And whereas we take the other side of the spectrum, and they will say the same about their cause. Though of course the right wing, I would say personally, has a lot more evidence of doing the right thing than the left, because tyranny always comes from the left. But what I'm saying is that I'm beginning to feel increasingly that there's a big amount of kind of divide and conquer happening here, and we should not write either. I don't know where every single one of you guys are exactly about what
we're in a culture war. Yeah, we're in a culture war, and it's raging.
So if God can forgive us for the things that we have done wrong, then we should also be open to forgiving others for anything that they have mistakenly, willingly or not willing to do. So we can be friends and get along, because like Dave said, it's, we're all in this together, and we all have to pull together, and you can't really bring people to God without speaking to them, and to speak to them, you've got to kind of put your knives down, so to speak.
Compassion.
Yeah, indeed. What would you, if you became Prime Minister, Dave, what would be the first thing you say to those standing around your desk in the first hour? What you are about? What changes will you be bringing in that month?
Leave the ECHR. Detain everyone that's here illegally and deport them. Every foreign-born person that's here and is not working, I'd deport them also. I don't see why we're importing people to sit on benefits. And then this is a hard one. How do you uphold democracy and deal with Islam? That's always that's because you could say ban Dawa, right? The promotion of. Then you'd find certain Muslims would deport themselves. Cultural Muslims wouldn't have.
What about reclassifying Islam as a terrorist ideology?
That's what you'd have to do, yeah.
But this is the thing. I think when people say ban Islam, I think that would actually just attract more people to it. Because you know, people who believe, oh, well, if you ban it, people will go, well, it must be true then. There's those type of people, right?
Yeah, true. But when you actually show them evidence that it's the targeting of all non-Muslims based on X, Y, and Z, then it would, I mean, it's Action. What was that Nazi group? Action something. That was banned. You didn't get any more people joining them, did they?
National Action. National Action.
Yeah, that's the one. So you didn't get people joining them.
If you banned halal, if you banned head coverings, if you made it, you can't have any signage on your buildings, you can't promote your ideology at speakers' corner, you can't have your stalls, you can't have call to prayer. But if you are a spiritual Muslim, you can practice your religion in your home, won't really affect your life in reality. But the ones that are hardline, the ones that do, the Ali Dawas, your Muhammad hijabs, they've got a choice. It's either you comply or you leave. And if you don't leave and you don't comply, you go to jail.
You'd be a dictator like me then.
I'm absolutely bemused about this ideal of a cultural Muslim or a moderate Muslim. Like anyone who's studied the Quran knows, these are just propaganda terms. There is no such thing as a cultural moderate Muslim.
Well,
only a slave of Allah or a free man. There's the only two things you get. A slave of Allah as a Muslim, and not slave of Allah as a kufir. That's the only two things you get in Islam.
You have individuals. My friend, you have individuals in these communities that don't believe what they say they believe, but they won't say they don't believe it for fear of being attacked by their own community. So they just pretend to go along with it.
Then they're a slave of Allah. You've just said they will not speak openly because of fear. Then they're a slave of Allah.
Right. Okay.
Well, so we should punish them. A slave means you don't have a choice. You have to do it. Otherwise, you'll see violence. So they're a slave of Allah then, aren't they?
So what do we do with those people then?
Well, try and liberate them by banning Islam and saying you can stay here if you don't have Islam and you fight against Islam or you see it as part of British law. And if they don't like
why would you need to ban it though? That's not the logical way of going about it. That doesn't make sense. Everything I've just proposed there would make it. Everything I proposed there would make it very, very difficult for Muslims to be Muslim in Britain because there's not really anything more you
wouldn't. I disagree.
What do you mean? Muslims are taught that if they're in a non-Muslim country, they have to promote their religion for a start. So then we do actually live by the letter of the religion. They would be obliged to leave.
So how well do you know the letter of their religion? Have you read a Quran at all?
What? Have I read the Quran?
Yeah, have you studied the Quran? Do you know the Quran well? Like as well as you would know another book?
To some extent, yeah.
So that's my point, is the way that you're treating Islam isn't the way that Muslims treat Islam. This is the way that they present it to us, thinking that we're ignorant Westerners, we're stupid, unknowing unbelievers. And they do that in order to manipulate our views so that they can freely practice. But if we know their Quran, if we've actually studied it, we know there is no such thing as moderation. There is no such thing as modernization in Islam. These are things they put in front of us to lead us, like a carrot with a donkey. They want us to go over here. They're going to put the carrot in our face.
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding me. I'm not the individual that would use a term such as extreme Islam. There's no such thing. There's just Islam. But what I'm saying to you is...
When you say you're going to make it harder for them to practice their religion by saying you can't do prayer in the streets and stuff like that, they will say, okay, yeah, we won't do prayer in the streets then, and they will develop another way, which is even worse than doing prayer in the streets. For instance, they'll start doing it in their cars or at work, or they'll stop traffic by doing it inside their car, and they'll say, well, I'm inside my car, I'm not in the street. Like, this is what they've done forever. And they're
break down the logistics of banning it then.
Well, the logistics of banning it is it is not allowed in any way, shape, or form. Anything
okay, so at home, how do you stop them practicing Islam?
Well, it's banned. So if anyone reports that they're doing it, the police will go in, and if they find evidence of it, they will be arrested for practicing an illegal cult religion, won't they?
Yeah. How are you going to enforce that? How are you going to know if someone at home is practicing Islam? You're going to put cameras in their homes. Somebody will what?
So, can you let me answer then? You're just going to talk over me. It's the same as any other crime. Somebody makes a report, the police go and collect evidence. If the evidence justifies that the crime is being committed, then arrests are made.
Yeah. How would I know what you're doing in your home? How would I know what you are doing in your home? How would I know that to report you?
Well, obviously someone would have to catch you, wouldn't they? See you doing it.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds very logical.
What you're effectively saying is we can't stop Muslims from burying themselves in a closet underneath the ground where no one can see them and secretly saying, verses out the Quran, but then acting on the surface like they're not. If they're doing
what I'm saying is the practicality of what you're saying is not really you ban Islam, so a Muslim at home is still practicing Islam. There's no way you're going to know that. What do you mean he's not? What kind of utopia?
What you're saying is factually incorrect, though, because in the Quran it stipulates what you have to do in order to call yourself a Muslim. And in order to call yourself a Muslim, you do not hide in a closet and secretly practice and then not do it outwardly.
So how is that different to what I proposed then? How is that different to what I put forward?
It's not a realistic scenario, what you've proposed. It wouldn't ever happen. What I'm proposing is difficult, but it is a realistic thing.
Right. So
it's virtually it wouldn't make any difference anyway. Even if it was possible, it wouldn't make any difference.
How are you not understanding? How are you not understanding what I'm saying? That is hilarious. That is hilarious.
I'm saying the fact is, your point is an exclusion rule of saying if a Muslim can hide in a cupboard and secretly read the Quran, but then not do it in front of everyone else, then how can we stop people doing that? And I'm saying I don't care about that guy.
And we've established, my friend, you're not using critical. You're not critical.
Need to be banned. The Muslims in the military need to be banned. The Muslims in the political system need to be banned. The Muslims making the rules that apply to me and my religion need to be banned. And Qurans sitting next to Christian Bibles in bookshops need to be banned. Those are the outward.
And we've established.
Sitting in his closet. No one cares about that guy. He doesn't exist.
We've established by banning it doesn't stop them from still practicing it in their own homes.
You just stipulated that with a suggestion. I don't agree with that either. That's like saying, why do we ban smoking then?
You're not thinking logically.
No, I am.
How are you going to know that a Muslim is practicing their faith in their own home? How will you know?
I'm not saying you have to. It's a ridiculous thing to suggest. For instance, Dave, do we have a law that says you cannot murder? Do you have a law that says you cannot murder people? Yes.
Yeah.
Do you agree that that's a good law that we should have? Yes. Does it prevent all murders? No. So it's still a good rule to have, despite the fact that people still commit murders. And in that same way,
I just think it's a very shallow. It's a very shallow way of thinking. By thinking you ban something, it doesn't work. We've banned drugs for a very long time. They're still prevalent in our societies. It doesn't make a difference. They're less
than they would be had we.
You have to be a lot smarter. And if you made it to where you can't have halal, you can't have the head coverings, you can't have signage on your buildings, you can't promote it anywhere publicly, you can't speak about Islam publicly, you can't do any of these things, it would make life a lot difficult for these individuals, and they would pick another country where they could go and freely be Muslims. For you just to ban it, for you to ban it, it is no different to what I'm saying. It's just you won't be able to enforce what you're saying, because a Muslim can still be a Muslim at home. It's the only way you enforce that is by putting a camera in everyone's homes and knowing what they're doing in the privacy of their own homes.
Unrealistic. That's absolute nonsense. I don't buy into that at all. Go back to the thing that I said about murder. Murders still happen despite we got a law against it. Does that mean we should not have the law just because it can't 100% be enforced? No.
What I'm saying to you is by banning it, it would actually attract more people to it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, let's okay murder. Let's not have a murder law then, because it obviously attracting people to the murder law. The fact that
if you shadow ban it, it will be a lot more effective. That's just my opinion.
So you're saying if we say on the sly that you can murder people, then it will be more effective?
They're not comparable.
It doesn't make sense.
It's not comparable.
Why is it not comparable? It's a law that's enforced that 100% of people should do, but 100% of people
We're
don't
talking
do.
about how to deal with an oppressive ideology such as Islam. We're not talking about, you're comparing it to murder. Murder is an act, and it is an act that is widely accepted to be unacceptable.
Practicing a religion is an act.
I don't understand why you're so bothered about the suggestion of banning the promotion of Islam when you're simply saying ban the ideology. Ban the ideology, which would ultimately lead to more people being drawn to it, because ultimately they'll think, because it's banned, it must be true. It will happen.
No, it won't. That's absolute rub. I do not believe
that.
Of
course it is. Yeah. It's a very shallow way of thinking.
Okay, you explain to me how that works then. You explain to me how banning a cult murderous ideology that puts people in a serious lack of their natural rights, how does banning that increase the practice of it?
It's the way. It's just human nature, innit? It's unfortunate. People are gullible. They're deceptible.
You have to show me a precedent or evidence or suggest some logical reason why that is the case. You can't just say that.
Drugs are banned. Have they gone anywhere?
They've gone down a lot. Yes, people know
they've gone down a lot. Yeah, you don't. Yeah. You have no life experience, my friend.
As being a serious ex-addict, I think I do, mate, actually.
Drugs are everywhere. Them being illegal has made no difference.
Apart from they are a lot less prevalent.
Can I jump in?
Allegedly.
Right. Sure. Go ahead, Jordan.
Well, when it comes to the drugs, a few years ago, they banned all legal highs. And ever since then, it's been a lot harder for people to get their hands on legal highs. Right. Also, around the same time, they brought in a law where Christians were banned from praying within a certain distance of abortion clinics. Somehow they managed to police that. And they also managed to police words of tweets. So surely they can find a way of policing if people are practicing Islam. Even in their own homes, there'll be clues. For a start, you've just got to look at the wife. The wife will be wearing normal clothes if they're not practicing Islam. If they're practicing Islam, surely she should still have to cover her.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is where we're heading down authoritarianism here. This is a problem.
The fact is, you have to ban bad things. It's not authoritarian dictatorship to say you don't want to have legalized bad things. You know, like murder and rape are bad things, so we ban them. It's not authoritarian, it's reasonable, it's moral.
It's a fascinating debate, I must admit, because we're touching on though it is theoretical, we're touching on the topics and conversations that people are actually having. I come across people having this conversation when I'm out and about, just between them in a conversational way. So, I must admit it's been fascinating listening to this. But I think both of you had good points.
I'm surprised to hear any Christian would disagree with what I've said, because it's scripture. It's literally God has told us that. God says, I think it's like Leviticus, or it's one of the early first 6 or 7 books in the Bible. We should not accept evil foreign pagan customs as our laws. That's a fact. That's God saying that verbatim. So why are we saying, oh, well, we can't ban them, even though God told us that we should never accept them? Why should we accept them now when God's told us not to?
So why ban it? So why ban it then? Why not just deport them all?
Because God said don't accept the foreign customs. He didn't say don't accept the foreign people. He said the customs. The customs are the laws, the traditions, the Sharia. That's what we need to ban.
10 Commandments says no false idols and no worshipping any other god other than him.
Exactly. Why are we not doing that?
No, this wouldn't
Jesus
work.
Jesus said love is the whole of the law. How is it love when you've got 7 wives and 4 of them are under 15? How is it love when you're saying you can't be friends with Jews, Christians, apostates, atheists, pagans, Buddhists, anyone else, and you want to kill them for the day of judgment? How is it moral to accept that as equal to something like Christianity, which says love, feed and clothe thy neighbor, bless your enemies?
Yeah, but who's accepting that? Because it's not me.
Well, no, I'm saying you don't have to accept it, though. The law has to encourage it. Not everyone follows the law, but having that law is a huge benefit to people being moral, because it enforces morality through the police and through the governmental system. Without that, we're going to end up with Sharia or even worse, communism. And then, it's just evil. I mean, look at the other countries that have had that. Look at the Soviet Union with their communism. They've murdered millions of people, completely collapsed, and now they've got Russia. Look at China. 90% of their population starves, but people only see the fancy bridges and the fake robots and stuff like that and think China's great because you're not allowed to talk. That's what we're dealing with. But if we follow God's law, then we don't have to deal with that. And it doesn't come down to whether the government agree with it or not, because it's God's law. So if we all uphold God's law, the government will bend the knee to that.
Amen.
See, this is the thing, and that's why I don't understand that. 'Cause the thing that I'm talking about is in regards to banning Dawa. Like, it means Sharia courts are gone. It means the Muslim Council of Britain is gone. It means there will be nothing in Parliament that would be in any way, shape, will ban cousin marriage. All of these things would be effective in making it to where people would struggle, find it extremely hard to operate in this country as a Muslim. But you just want to outright ban it, which really isn't that much difference. The only difference is you want to go to the extent where you want to police what they're doing in their own homes. I don't think that's effective, and I don't think
we already police what people do in their own homes anyway.
But to be clear, this is what you're advocating for. You think we can actually
I am
enforce something where we can control what people are doing in their own homes?
You're allowed to do whatever you like in your own home. I don't care.
Yeah, but people still do. But people still do. But people still do. But people still do.
It doesn't matter whether they do. The law says you should.
Exactly. So how do you? The law can say what it likes, but how do you enforce that law?
Well, we have a
law. Tell me,
saying
please,
that
how you enforce that?
Your wife in. You're not allowed to beat up your wife in the.
But it happens. But it happens.
But the point is, your wife can tell the police and have you arrested. So then you will not do it in future.
Yes.
So it enforces, even though you have an evil soul, that you have to behave well. And that is not compatible with Islam. So if we ban the Islamic view on domestic abuse, and we go back to what we had before that in British law, then that is a marked improvement. Even though 100% of people aren't robots like you're suggesting, some people are still going to break the law. The probability of them being punished and not repeating it is far higher than if
I'm talking about enforcing it and the practicality of it. How will you be able to arrest Muslims for practice? I think that is extreme, to be honest with you. Criminalizing thingy for if like someone wants anyway, obviously there's a massive disconnect there, but enforcing that I don't think it'll be possible, but you think it will, so we're never going to agree on that. I think
it will, and I think it's absolutely essential that we do that. It's required if we want our country to stick together and not be completely dissolved.
So how will you know that someone's practicing Islamic faith in their home?
Argument. You cannot mandate for the odd person, but you don't make rules on exceptions, right? So
but it wouldn't be the odd person, it would be all of them. It would be all of them.
Then it wouldn't be hidden, would it?
There are millions of Muslims across this country right now, right, who are more likely have been or are praying. None of us know or are aware of it. So how will you be aware that they're doing this?
Pray. I'm not saying they shouldn't pray. They can pray all day long. I don't care about that.
But that's exactly the same as what I've been saying then.
In relation to what they do in their religion that breaks our law, those things should be
So you've not listened to what I've said then. You've not listened to what I've said. I said if they want to practice the ideology in their own homes, that's fine. But outside of their homes, there will be no acknowledging, no promotion, no nothing of Islam.
Even in their own homes, if what they're doing is illegal, there should be laws against it. And those
you just said they can pray in their own homes. You just said they can pray in their own homes.
Against the law.
So when you ban Islam, so when you ban
a silly little prayer, they could be.
So when you ban Islam, they're still allowed to practice it in their own homes.
No, because practice and prayer is not the same thing. Practicing Islam is not just saying a prayer. I can say a shahada now as part of a dramatic performance. It doesn't mean I'm practicing Islam, does it? So it doesn't mean I have to ban people doing adverts with dawah in, or a dramatic a sitcom of Muslims in.
So they can't read the Quran
or something would be okay. But what I'm saying is the Quran.
So they can't read the Quran at home. So they can't read the Quran at home.
What do you mean they can't read the Quran? No, they can read the Quran as long as they're not practicing the religion. So, like, I've got a Quran in my hands now. I'm reading it now. It doesn't mean I'm practicing the religion, does it? So you can't ban me from reading a book for critical review because I'm going to make videos about what's in this book and I'm going to educate people of the evils of Islam. Whereas
we're pretty much saying this. We're pretty much saying the same thing. This is no, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here, but we're pretty much saying the same thing.
But you're saying it can't be enforced, whereas I'm saying I think it can be enforced. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to know what people are doing in their own homes. So you're obviously a lot more optimistic that you'll be able to know what everyone's doing at home. I think that's quite difficult.
If someone's doing it, look, if someone's doing something completely in secret and it has no outward effects, it's like, well, who cares then? But the fact is,
there you go, and that's what I was saying in the beginning, and that's exactly what I was saying in the beginning.
But what you didn't validate is when someone breaks a law, it creates a victim, so it is not secret anymore. That's why I'm saying it needs to be banned. When it's creating a victim, that victim should be thoroughly justified and given the justice they deserve under British law, regardless of whether it insults a Muslim's prophet or whether it corrupts a Muslim pillar of Islam or whatever. If there's a victim under British law, then Islam should be culpable and punishable. That's what we don't do.
Let me just clarify my position. That's what I was saying in the beginning. Obviously, we'll agree to disagree. But for me personally, I think the way to deal with it is by banning the promotion of. So you can't speak about Islam in public. You can't have signage on your buildings. None of these things. You won't have Qurans in libraries or anything like that. We won't have the Muslim Council of Britain. We won't have Sharia courts. There will be Islam will play no role in public life. If you want to be a Muslim at home, that is your prerogative. That's my position.
Well, I mean, that's a bit part. I can't disagree with that being a good idea, but I still feel like it doesn't really go far enough. And I'll give you an example of a Quran verse so that you know what we're talking about, right? I've got a Quran here, the Tashweed Quran, which is like the modern, most usual one that you're going to find. And we turn to page 1, and we find Al-Fatiha, which is the opening prayer. The third line says, "Most gracious, most merciful Allah, who is master of the day of judgment, which you must believe." So we can't know whether someone believes in the day of judgment or not, just based on them being at home reading this, right? So that's not a crime. But if you know from having studied the Quran what the day of judgment entails, you know the way that the day of judgment is reached in Islam is specifically when Muslims murder all the non-believers. So at that point, there is a crime. When they start murdering non-believers, rather than what we're currently doing, making their excuses and saying it's Islamophobic to try and investigate them, we should throw the book at these guys and then say Islam is the reason they did that. We should ban that. Whether people can get away with reading a Quran in private and say they're not doing it to practice religion, that's fine. But at the point when they're doing racist, violent things and they're purposefully flouting and disobeying with British law, we know that is because of their religion.
You're arguing something here that doesn't need. You're arguing something here that does not need to be argued. Like who in the right mind is going to disagree with what you just said there?
No one. It's absolutely
so. You took a bizarre angle. Would you apply these things to other religions? Would you ban any other religions?
No, I wouldn't, because, well, unless there's another religion which causes that much problem and is that violent. But having studied several different religions, I don't find any of them to be this problematic and this violent, this anti-British. The only one I find to be a genocidal maniac's wet dream is Islam. That's the reason why I'm so hardline about banning it completely.
See, what we do have to address in this conversation is this is authoritarian. Like it is. Well, hold on, I'm just giving my perspective. You can give your perspective. I'm saying we are moving away from what is deemed to be democratic here. For me personally, that's the way I see it. You obviously feel like you have a biblical justification for it. That's fine. Which I might not more likely won't disagree with. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of people will hear this conversation and go, "This is authoritarian. This is oppressive." So on and such forth. I'm just acknowledging.
Well, maybe they are going to say that, but at the end of the day, there's rapists out there who think the law is repressing them because they're not allowed to go and rape people. It doesn't mean it's a bad law that's authoritarian, does it? It means it's a good law, and they're just idiots who are bad people. So what do? Are we going to bend the knee to bad people? Or are we going to do what God's told us to do and make the bad people bend the knee to Him? I say the latter.
But this is the question: how do you deal with something that is colonialist, imperialist, supremacist? And uphold a democrat. It's difficult because if you look historically, throughout times of war, democracy has not really been upheld. But of course, there are people who are like hardline. We must stick to liberal values, but really, in reality, liberalism is going to be defeated by Islam. And when it is, we're all fucked. Pardon my language.
You can be excused for the one swear word. You've been pretty good so far. So I think the problem is with liberalism is it's a tool that people use to spring open a door that should stay locked. So Islam uses liberalism. It uses liberals to try and enforce its rules by saying you're oppressing us. And it's like, hang on a minute. We're oppressing your violence. We're oppressing the fact that you think you can walk all over our country, change all our laws. You can disrespect the culture that this country had when you arrived here. You disrespect our immigration system by lying on your forms in order to come here, and you bring 7 quote-unquote sisters who turns out to be your wives. That's how we're oppressing you. We're oppressing you into not breaking our laws and lying about your life so that you can do that. That's the kind of oppression we need more of.
But that's the thing, isn't it?
Some bad things do need to be oppressed as hardline.
Well, that's the thing. We could get to the point where if in Britain one day it does become where it is 51% Muslim population, they could use the democratic process to have a referendum where we actually vote whether we should have democracy anymore or not. I might have explained that in a ridiculous way, but we could literally see one day them as vote to get rid of voting.
Well, they've already started the ball rolling with that. As soon as we recognize Palestine as an equal country, despite the fact that it isn't even a country yet, has no official laws, it has no prime minister, president, military, nothing like that, we have now said it's fair enough to have a discussion in the Commons here, a debate, a proper political debate about whether the Palestinian Bill of Rights should be equal to ours. So we've already said a really bad, violent, evil law which defeats British law, and we would all agree if it was put to a vote today and people knew the Palestinian Bill of Rights, every single person who is not a Muslim, and probably actually a lot of Muslims, would absolutely vote to ban it 100%. But because of the government who didn't ask us, they didn't give us a vote, shall we recognize Palestine? They never gave us that vote. They used BBC to brainwash people to agree with it, and then they just did it anyway. So that's what I'm saying. Democracy doesn't always work. Sometimes you've got to be hardline. I mean, look at World War II. It's not like people took a vote on where we were going to bomb civilians in Germany to win the war, but we did. It's not like Americans took a vote, should we bomb Hiroshima with a nuclear bomb? But they did, and they had to. And the effect of it in the long term was good. So it was like, had they took a vote on that, they would have lost the war. And the same with Churchill. If we'd have voted, should we bomb civilians in Germany? People would have said no, we would have lost the war.
No, I reckon they would have definitely said yes at that time.
When you're up against genocidal murderers who are going to lie to you and stab you in the back, i.e. Islam, sacrifices must be made. Otherwise, you're just admitting defeat. It's like you were saying earlier, even if you think you are going to be defeated, you should still fight.
100%, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying with Islam. Yes, it'll be difficult to enforce. Yes, there'll be opposition from the left and from Muslims. Yes, it might be criticized. Who cares? It's essential that we start trying. I will back that, and I don't care who calls me what. Who wants to criticize me, call me Islamophobe all you like. I will stand behind that. God has put the purpose in me to say Islam is the religion of Satan. We should ban it 100% and remove all supplicants of it for the benefit of our country.
It's an antichrist ideology, and it takes people away from salvation. And it was created by the devil, and it is the world's biggest cult. But at the core of Islam, it doesn't believe in equal rights, and it doesn't believe in freedom. So you're dealing with something that is about as dangerous as you can get. But I don't know. The left want to facilitate it and uphold it, and it's a massive, massive problem.
A good analogy is to say, we're sheep in a pen. Don't invite the wolf in. That's what we've done. We've invited the wolf in. So it's like, okay, it's going to be bloody and it's going to be difficult, but we need to get that guy out. Why have we banned Dave?
We haven't. No, he's voluntarily gone on mute.
He's muted himself. Sorry, I didn't mean ban. I mean muted. I've got to say, right, Dave and I, we've spent the last 20 minutes kind of arguing, but I actually agree with a lot of what he says. I just feel like the reason why he won't go as far as I'm going is because he hasn't studied the Quran or hasn't experienced the Islam faith directly, head to head, the way that I have been doing. But I can tell he's a guy with solid morality who's got good Christian faith. So I think in the fullness of time, Dave Smith, I genuinely believe you will come around to what I'm saying 100%. And it's like you're saying, how do you enforce that? Well, I don't know, but we have to make an effort to do it because these guys know exactly how they're going to enforce their Islam on us. That's what they came here for. So, it's like the spiritual battle is on. The new Christian war is, do we stick with God, despite the fact that we have to put our faith in God? We don't know how that works. Or do we put our faith in earthly things, politics, celebrities, and false religions, and the left? I think we all know the answer to that.
Stick with God and we've won.
100%.
Exactly.
Agreed.
I've got to say, a few people in the chat have been kind of backbiting against Dave. I disagree with you. I mean, this is the first time I've ever experienced a chat with Dave Smith, but I find him to be a very intelligent, moralistic fellow. I like Dave, even though he's argued quite strenuously. This is a guy I will have an argument with again because I like what he has to say. So I think people in the comments, maybe you have a grudge against him, but if you're Christian, you should forgive him for whatever he's done against you so that you can be forgiven in the eyes of God. It's not like you've never upset anyone or said something wrong. Maybe you changed your mind 10 years ago.
They're definitely atheistic trolls.
Yeah, fair enough. That makes absolute sense.
They're definitely trolls, 100%. Guys, I really appreciate talking to you. I have to go. Sorry, I apologize. But yeah, I appreciate talking to you. It's always good to, steel sharpens steel. It's always good to have these type of conversations. God bless you all. And Manny, thank you for having me on, but I've got to go. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
God bless.
Mate. Bye-bye. God bless.
Bye-bye, mate.
So there you have it. That was most of the debate that we had. The actual video went on for almost 4 hours. Like, these debates just go on for absolutely ever. So that was the main bit. So what we found is at the beginning of the conversation, Dave was very vocal about his opposition to banning things, and he even went as far as suggesting that we ban something like Islam is actually authoritarian. So we're coming away from the ideas of a democracy and we're heading towards a dictatorship. But I think what he doesn't recognise, and what I think he will recognise in the long term, is the thing that we are saying we will ban is dictatorship. This thing, the Sharia. And this underpins the ideal of Islam. It is a dictatorship, and it is the dictatorship of a violent false god called Allah. So this is the thing that I'm saying we should ban. And one of the things he said is, well, how do you stop people praying in secret in a basement underneath their house? And my point is, we don't need to, right? If people want to go and pray to whatever god they want to go and pray to, that's absolutely fine, provided they don't infringe upon British law. That's my entire point, and that has been my point from start to finish, and will be my point at the end. For instance, we know, in the doctrine of Islam, in this book, and actually in the Quran, Muslims are incited towards violence towards guys like me. Now, this is my country. I've always lived here. I was born here and I will die here. My family are from here. Muslims are instructed to come here and enforce their law. To ignore my law and enforce their law. That's an infringement of British law. In order that they could facilitate that coming here, they had to fill out an immigration form and tell a lie on that form that they intended to come here and follow our laws. That is an infringement on British law, but it is seen as a moral endeavour under the cause of jihad. That's the thing that we'll be banning when we ban Islam. We're not banning thinking, we're not banning doing silent prayer, we're not banning people doing what they want in their own houses. We are simply saying we need to enforce our culture, our law, we need to protect our identity as a nation and our freedom as individuals under the system of democracy which we have. And unfortunately, even though all other religions and social groupings that we've invited here have integrated and have not interrupted that, Islam is the one example of a culture which cannot integrate and be compatible with British law, and that is the reason why, despite the difficulty, despite the challenges, we must ban Islam 100%, no matter how long it takes and how difficult it is. We must find the strength and courage to put a stop to this oppressive, racist ideology and throw it out. And if anyone wants to go and practice this racist ideology, fine, go and do it elsewhere. British law is very clear that this is evil and we will not accept it. Not now, not ever. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed that and you learned something. If you want to watch the full Mani Sunda live stream, I'll leave a link in the description underneath this video. In the meantime, hope you enjoyed that and you learned something. God bless you all. Have a lovely day and I'll see you people in the next one. Bye now.